Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to introduce Sergeant Roberto. He's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone could please stand.
Place your right hand over your hand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sergeant Robert Plowdegee. With the Banning Police Department, I oversee the school resource officers and the homeless liaison officers. I'm just here to share some of the statistics for September of 2023. For the Banning Police Department, we had a total of 12 homeless-related arrests for the month. 6 homeless encampments were torn down by our homeless liaison officer, Officer Sam Mendoza. There was 3 citywide cleanups. There was 12 confiscated shopping carts, and there was 8 transients that were returned or relocated to their home city where they originally came from. So there was also an incident that occurred this weekend on Saturday, and one of the RV lots here at Sun Lakes, in one of the farthest back lots, there was someone who came in attempts to steal an RV. They wanted to steal an RV or a trailer? A trailer. So they came in, and someone was observant, called it in, and blocked them in while police were on their way here. Everyone that was working that day responded from the Banning Police Department, set up a perimeter. From what I understand, is that the subjects fled. They ended up locating 2 suspects, a male and a female, took them into custody. Turns out that the truck that they were driving was stolen, so they came here with the intent to steal a trailer or steal property from Sun Lake. So I just want to reiterate that if you see something, say something. I'm glad that they called it in right away. I wouldn't advise to block them in because some of these people are careless and they'll try to ram your vehicle. But if you can get the best description possible, we will get here as quickly as possible, like they did on Saturday, and took 2 people into custody for multiple felony charges. So again, if you see anything, see something, say something, call it in, we will get here. So just look out for each other. You see something suspicious. Thank you, guys.
Hello, folks. My name is Mike. I'm your Director of Security here at Sun Lakes. Just wanted to actually add into what the sergeant was saying. The 2 suspects that were apprehended that day were the same 2 individuals that conducted the theft occurrence in the RV lot back in July. So obviously we can tell these criminals always come back to the scene of the crime, which they did. Thankfully, with the efforts of Banning PD and my department and the residents, were able to observe a lot of the activity that took place that day. We got those guys and put in handcuffs, and hopefully they learn their lessons. But we have to be vigilant out there, folks. I'm just going to give a brief report on what security is doing for you guys out there today. And if you have any questions, you can let me know at the end. Patrol enhancements is one of the things that we're going to start improving on here in the community. We have increased the frequency of security patrols in our community, especially during our peak hours and our weekends. Our goal is to maintain a visible presence and ensure a safe environment for all of our residents. Gate access is also one of the important roles that we play here at Sun Lakes. Please continue to inform guests to please use the visitor lanes and man gates to gain access to the community. It's essential to help us track and control anyone attempting to piggyback behind you or when entering the community would be considered a trespasser. So if you see somebody behind you while you're entering the community that doesn't look like they belong here, wait for that gate arm to come back down, give us a call, give us a description of the vehicle. We'll keep an eye on that car to make sure that they go where they need to go to and prevent any trespassers from that point. Reporting suspicious activity. If you observe any suspicious activity or person in the community, do not hesitate to contact our security team. Your vigilance and prompt reporting play a crucial role in maintaining security. We will respond by dispatching an available unit in the area as soon as possible. Lighting maintenance, it's kind of an issue here at Sun Lakes from time to time, but we are definitely working on getting the proper individuals notified about that. We are actively working on improving lighting in the common areas and pathways. Well-lit areas discourage unwanted activity and promote safety. If you observe any lights out around your area, you may call us so that we can generate a work order and get it repaired immediately. Emergency contact information. Ensure that your emergency contact information on file with administration or us is up to date. In case of an emergency, accurate contact information is vital for your own safety. Somebody might go to the hospital, we'll have family members trying to reach you, they'll call security and ask us to go do a welfare check on your house. We don't know if you guys are going to the hospital or not, but we can contact emergency personnel or emergency contact family members to let them know that you guys are good, or in a hospital at that. So always make sure that your information is up to date. Community Watch Program. Consider joining or supporting a Community Watch program. Together we can enhance security and look out for one another. Feel free to contact Ms. Michelle Walters for further details regarding that. She's great when it comes to planning, when it comes to community awareness. She will get me involved as well and your district delegates to see if we can come up with a better plan and assist you with your needs in your districts. Guest registration. If you have any guests visiting, please register them with our security team in advance. This helps us maintain control over who enters the community, and it helps expedite guest entries as well. Advise guests that they will be asked for an ID and the address that they plan on visiting. Security awareness, we encourage all residents to stay informed about security, best practice, and to share this information with guests and family members. Security is a collective effort. The more knowledge you guys are aware of how we operate here at Sun Lakes and what the rules and regulations are, the safer the community will be and more enjoyable for you and your guests. Your safety and security remain our top priority. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach me or our security team. We appreciate your cooperation and support in making our community a safe and welcoming place to live. One more thing. If there's any issues with my officers in my department, I have high expectations for my guys. They must provide the best when it comes to service. This is one of the reasons why we're here. I have a zero tolerance when it comes to my team not providing the customer service that's expected from them. If there's any issues, please let me or Lieutenant Roman know. I guarantee you it will get addressed immediately. I have high expectations when it comes for my team. I appreciate your folks' time. For our watchers out in the community that speak Spanish, aquí estamos para atenderlos también a ustedes. Si tienen alguna pregunta, por favor localiza la estación en security en la entrada de la estación y podemos atenderlos en cualquier manera. Thank you for your time, folks. Do you guys have any questions for me? Excellent. Have a good day. Thank you.
Okay, before we take questions, I just want to make sure when you are going to ask a question, you must have a mic. So Shannon will go around, and I will go around with a mic when we go through this. So go ahead, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
Virginia Cervantes on the north
Hi,
side.
Virginia.
I don't have a question. I want to say thank you very, very, very much for your team working with the police department, whether Banning or Beaumont or whomever, undercover out there. I want to thank you again for everything you guys do.
It is our pleasure. We appreciate every single resident and how we respond to each and every one of you. We do take every one of you serious here, and we want to make sure we are doing our due diligence and the best of service. So thank you for that.
Okay, so we're going to get on with our presentation. And I would like to introduce David Lara Telez. He is with Supervisor Gutierrez's office. So just remember, if you want to ask any questions, make sure we come to you with a microphone because it is being recorded on Channel 97 and people want to hear your questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Sun Lakes. It's a pleasure to be here representing my boss, Supervisor Gutierrez. He really wanted to be here today. He's out of state, so I have the honor of representing him here today. We love this community. I was over at the Banning Senior Center recently. Very wonderful senior center. They have wonderful activities for people that don't have facilities like you have here. But one of the things that the director told me, and I didn't even know this, apparently you have a charitable foundation here, and you fund the Banning Senior Center. You do funding for the Banning Senior Center. And that meant a lot to me because that center, the first time I went there, I thought they had children I thought they had brought their grandchildren because they were giggling and laughing, and it was the seniors doing their class. And it's a wonderful facility. It provides so much for people that don't have a facility like you have here. And we want to thank Michelle and the administration here at Sun Lakes for allowing us to do this forum today. It is so important, especially Michelle was talking about how Christmas is coming up and that there's going to be purchases, and this is a big time that there's going to be scams. And unfortunately, we are the most vulnerable. The seniors, very often, they just take advantage of us. And one thing that I want to tell you is that do not be embarrassed. If you think you're a victim of a scam or you're ashamed to report it, I want to tell you this story real quickly. I went to a press conference with the Attorney General of the state of California. In law enforcement, there's nobody higher than him in California. He's the Attorney General of the state of California. He shared that his mother was a victim of a scam. And one of the reporters asked him, did she lose money? His entire body language and he said yes. And he asked for the next question. He didn't want to talk. The Attorney General of the state of California, his mother was scammed. So don't be ashamed. If you think you're the victim of the scam, report it. And just be very careful. And we have some incredible presenters today to give you so much information. And please, those of you who are here, obviously you're interested and you're the ones who are active. Be sure to tell the other residents because this is so important. And our first presenter that we have is from the district attorney's office. She's a deputy district attorney, and she specifically prosecutes elder abuse. And she's just very, very energetic and very passionate about what she does. So from the district attorney's office, Maureen Dumichel. Yay, Maureen.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing today? All right. No worries. It happens to all of us. Good afternoon. As David mentioned, my name is Maureen Dumichel. I am a deputy district attorney out of the Riverside office. And while I know I don't look a day over 22 years old, I actually have been doing this job for 17 years. And so for the last 6 or so years, I've been prosecuting major fraud cases. And what I started to notice is that there was a correlation in major fraud and elder abuse. And so we eventually, with the blessing of our elected district attorney, Michael Hestrin, created a major elder abuse unit that tackles all types of cases that affect seniors: financial, physical abuse, neglect, and unfortunately, even sexual abuse. So under the law, someone is considered an elder. This is the legislature's definition, not mine, because as you know, everything is reduced 10 years now. 50 is the new 40, 60 is the new 50. But they have labeled the age for an elder criminally as 65 years or older. Okay, so anyone who is 65 years or older has special protections under the law in that there's more increased punishment when someone is a victim of elder abuse than if it was someone like me. So I wanted to talk to you about a couple of the things that we're seeing, because really the best way to stop elder abuse or scams from happening is by educating all of you. That's the only way to do it, because the sad reality is by the time a case gets to me, unless a suspect has a bunch of assets that I can seize, like a home, they haven't spent your money, the money is usually already gone. So the way to avoid being a victim is to learn about all this and then spread it to everybody you know. You are now all deputized as scam ambassadors. Okay, you're going to take what you know, you're going to go home and tell all your friends and neighbors, you should have been there, this was amazing, and now I'm going to educate you. All right? So I'm going to talk about the scams that we've been seeing in our office lately. I'll start with the stranger scams. Who's heard, get ready for it, of the romance scams? We've all heard of the romance scams. Now, those of you that are paired up today, those of you that may not be paired up, it can happen to anyone. It happens to married people, single people, widows, and it goes a little something like this. Someone reaches out to you, maybe on LinkedIn, social media, you have common interests, and before you know it, you've developed a friendship with this person, and you're communicating and sharing information, and then after a while, you start to form this attachment to this person. There's someone you count on for everything. And then they'll tell you a story. My child is sick with cancer. I lost my job. I need life-saving surgery. My dog Sparky had to be put down. And then what happens is we see seniors start wiring money. And that money is going international. It's going abroad. We've had victims that have lost $700,000 through this scam. And these are people like all of you that are fully aware of what's going on, but they were lonely and they got trapped and scammed by somebody. So just be aware. It may not be happening to you, but I guarantee you there's someone you know that may be communicating with somebody they shouldn't. So I'll give you the first piece of advice. I tell this to my parents all the time. They're 75 and 76, and it goes a little something like this. Don't talk to strangers. It served me well from getting kidnapped when I was a child, and I tell them the exact same thing. Because the bottom line is you don't know who's you don't know. You don't know why someone's approaching you, why someone wants to befriend you. Because the sad reality is in the world that I live in, and my wonderful paralegals Luke and Maria live in, strangers often will befriend someone for trying to achieve a goal, right? And we don't ever want to see that happen. So be very cautious about who you're befriending. Gift card scams. Who's heard of the gift card scams? Now that the holidays are coming up, this is going to be a big one. We had a scam presentation about a year ago where a woman just like you in the audience, alert, paying attention, raised her hand and said, "This happened to me. I got an email from Amazon and they said I owed them money because they'd overcredited my account. And so while I'm reading this email saying I owe them $3,000, I got a phone call. And they spent all this time on the phone with me and they were telling me, this is what you got to do. You can pay this bill back. We need you to go to Lowe's, buy $1,000 in gift cards." And she said, "But I did it." And then I went to Target, where I tried to buy another $2,000 in gift cards. But the clerk at Target stopped me and said, "Ma'am, this is a scam." Because what happens on the gift card scams is you give them all the information on the gift card, along with the security code, and they spend the money. It's gone. You'll never get it back. And I told her, I said, "What do you think was the biggest red sign in that?" And she's like, "I don't know. I mean, the email, and then there was a phone call." And I said, "It was that customer service was helpful. They spent hours on the phone with you, getting you to go places." How many times do you call a business these days and you can't get anyone on the phone, right? So when you have a live person that's like, "It's okay, ma'am, take your time. We're just going to go stay on the line while you go to the store," that's a big red flag. So beware of that. Jury duty scams. Has anyone heard of this? The police are not going to arrest you if you don't show up for jury duty. You will never be asked to clear a warrant with blue dots or gift cards or money. That's not going to happen. Law enforcement is way too busy with that. Investment scams. Another childhood expression, if it sounds too good to be true, it is too good to be true. I sit here, both my husband and I are DAs. My mother-in-law and her husband are victims of an investment scam. We told them at the time, this is a scam. They did not listen. When it came time to renew the money that they'd put in, it goes a little something like this. "We would love you to put in $20,000, and we are going to invest your money in flipping houses. And then once we flip the house, we're going to roll it over and then you're going to get even more money. Promising things like an automatic 20% return after 3 months. Crazy numbers like that. So what happened, do you think, at the end of the period when their money was due to come back to them? Nothing, but that's okay, because they just asked them to roll it back in. We're not going to give it back to you. We want to keep investing your money. Sure, go ahead. Go ahead. I told them, but they literally, that is a scam. So just be cautious of things like that. How many of you have heard of hospice fraud? Okay, I'm going to ruin your days with this one. Hospice fraud is something that's happening where if you're at a grocery store, maybe someone's coming to your house, they may have a table, they're going to ask you to sign up. Would you like to have hospice, sir? Did you know hospice has expanded what we can do for you? We will come to your house. We will cook your meals. We will clean your house. We will take you to doctor's appointments. We will do all that. That's covered under hospice. Does that sound nice? You had hospice for your wife? Uh-huh. And they're going to want you to sign up for all of that. But here's the problem. Hospice does not cover that. Hospice is not housekeeping. Hospice is not grocery store shopping. And so what happens is we have elders that are signing up for hospice, and effectively when you sign up for hospice, what does it do to your doctors? Cancels them. So any surgery, any medications that you may be on, any upcoming doctor's appointments, those are all going to be canceled. So be very leery about signing up for anything with hospice unless it is truly end-of-life services, because that's another scam we see. Contractors, are they allowed to come door to door in here? That's good. Something to remember. It's $1,000 or 10% of the total payment project, whichever is less. Okay? And again, just a word of advice. I'm always leery about people that are coming door to door because the good ones are going to be really busy and you're going to have to seek them out, right? So just be cautious who you're doing business with. How many of you own your homes? Yay, what do homes have now that they didn't have 10 years ago? Equity. Yes, it wasn't a trick question. Equity, right? And that's a great thing because, yay, our homes have money and we can pull into the equity if you want to take out like 7% interest rates. But aside from that, what we're noticing is that now that homes have equity again, we need to be careful with making sure no one is trying to record a document against your property, okay? So Riverside County actually sends out these courtesy notices where if someone records a document against your property, you will receive a letter. And that letter will say, this document has been recorded against your property, and if you did not record it, you need to contact our office specifically, because the district attorney's office, like DA investigator Michael Stallnecker, investigates real estate fraud from the ground up. Any other type of elder abuse theft goes to your local police department, and you always want to report it because that's how law enforcement knows the trends. That's how we see what's happening. And sometimes you may need a push when you go to law enforcement. Oftentimes they may tell a victim who's lost money, oh, it's civil. It's a civil issue. Take your documents. You say, I want a report taken. I want you to take the report and do the investigation. And if you need help, you can contact APS. So those are the strangers. Now I'm going to ruin your day even more. Who do you think the most likely suspect I see on my cases is? Relatives, family members. It's almost always the adult children or the grandchildren of the victims that want their inheritance early. So one of the things I always encourage seniors when I go to communities, make sure you have your estate planning documents done of what you want to happen with your money and your wishes. Because it's not the you right now I'm talking to, it's the you in 5 years to make sure you're protected all the way through. Anyone have their powers of attorneys done? Okay, good. Powers of attorneys. Even if someone has control over your finances, you should always make sure you are in control of your bank account statements, your debit cards, and you're reviewing what's happening with your accounts. Because that's the number one source of financial abuse is through a family member or trusted loved one who has access to the money and then embezzles it. Caregivers. Do you know anyone in this community that has a caregiver? Lots of people have a caregiver. Unfortunately, this is another area that's ripe with abuse. Abuse can come in the form of not properly taking care of someone. It can come from over-medicating someone or under-medicating them. So it's really important to use the resources you're going to learn about here, Adult Protective Services, the care team, police, to where if you see something, say something. Because sadly, most caregivers are not required to undergo a lot of significant training, okay? In fact, there are caregivers, people are able to become caregivers paid by the state if a victim wants them to be caregivers when they've been released from prison for various felony offenses. Parole officers, probation officers often tell criminals to try and get jobs as IHSS caregivers because their convictions don't disqualify them. So be very cautious of who you're allowing into your house to provide any form of care. Make sure your items are not missing, and if they are, or you have concerns, make sure to report it. So I think I'm going to sit down now and leave time for the other speakers. I've delivered my cloud of doom. If you have questions, I'd be happy to take them at the end, but thank you so much for your attention. You want to do questions now? Oh, okay. Does anyone have any questions now? We're changing it up.
Question. Whoa. Excuse me. I didn't mean to be that loud. Question is, online banking nowadays, how secure, how safe, how do you determine?
So with online banking, one of the things that I recommend, never click on an email or a text from your financial institution. If you ever get something that pretends to be from your bank, what I always do is I close the email, I don't respond, and I directly log on to my bank, or I call them directly. Your bank will never call you asking for Social Security information, account numbers, anything like that. So it is always the best way to be cautious is to initiate the transaction yourself. Online banking, there's hazards with everything. If you use a physical check, someone could take that out of the mail. Someone can whitewash your checks. Michael knows all about that. That's not my area. But there's many ways that they can take account information. What I do recommend is if you're going to use online banking, maybe don't stay logged in if it's a public computer. Don't give anyone else your passcodes. When you're out and about, my preference is to use my credit card rather than my debit card, especially at gas stations, because they have those little swiper things. So when you use the credit card, if that account is compromised, it goes just to your credit card and they can reverse those, as opposed to them gaining access to your debit card, because your checking account's the most vulnerable account. Okay, you have a question?
I heard you mention title insurance. I bought that, because I was told that neither the county nor your bank, if you have a mortgage, will inform you if somebody has taken out a title against your home. Is that true?
So here in Riverside County, any document recorded against your property, you will be notified about. Well, I can't give you advice on what to do, but I can tell you in Riverside County that notice will be sent to you. Okay, now remember, there are companies that will create business practices where they charge you for something that you can get for less. So like there are companies that will charge you money to get you more death certificate copies, when in reality you can get one for $10. So people will look for their business opportunities where they can find them. Other questions?
You had mentioned, it stood in my mind kind of scary, that the people that are let go out of prison, they're encouraged to find a job. If they find a job through the county as a caregiver, can that person that's going to be receiving the caregiver, can they ask for references?
So where that scenario happens more likely is the individual that requires the care can pick their caregiver. So you will often see it when it's a grandson or a granddaughter or a family member and they want them to provide care. The concern for me is when
the person out of prison who is still continuing with crime is not providing the care and the neglect that happens. But it's not just you're going to be randomly saddled with someone who's a criminal. These are people where they're choosing their IHSS caregiver. Yes.
I had caregiving for my husband, and the caregivers I used were licensed by the state of California, so I would ask if they have been licensed.
And that's excellent. If someone's going to be coming in your house providing care, check on their licensing and training to see what they have. Yes.
A friend of mine in Sun City in the desert was very upset recently. She received some call. I don't know what it was about, but they asked her to pay for something, and she used her debit card over a phone call. And I don't know, a day or so later, I don't know how this came about, she found out that they took $100,000. So, it was a real wake-up call for me. I use my debit card, but only like at Walmart or something like that. So if I am reading my bank statement, that's all I should see. But anyway, just a tip about don't use your debit card to pay for anything online or over the phone, or you might be in trouble.
Well, and that's a good point. Yes, you should never be giving out credit card, billing, identifying information over the phone. You don't know who it is. That's why I always recommend people use their credit card, because while it's a pain and you have to wait for a new card to be issued, your debit account is secure. Banks are doing a lovely game right now where they are saying if it is fraud, like someone uses your credit card and charges up $3,000, you're covered. But if it is a scam where you voluntarily give over the money, even though you think it's for something else, banks are not covering that. So that's why with these scams, they're so dangerous, because the banking institutions are also often not much help in this area. And you need to be very careful with the phone calls, because if anyone's heard of spoofing, has anyone heard of spoofing? Is it spoofing? Right now, someone could call my phone and it would show up as Banning Police Department. It may show up as my best friend's name, and it would not be either of those. So they affect who's going to show up on caller ID. So even if my best friend were to call me and say, Maureen, what's your social security number? I'm not giving anything, right? Because I don't know who truly is on the end of the phone call.
Oh, I just want to know how you spell smoothing.
I think it's spoofing. S-P-O-O-F-I-N-G. Spoofing. Between the pledge and the spelling, I feel like I'm back at school. I'm like, yes.
I feel like I've been scammed by a guy who said he would build me a golf cart. It's taken like 10 times longer, and he still don't have one. Is there any way I can legally alert my fellow Sun Lakers? Can I say his name? I don't mean today, but can I spread the word, or what can I legally do?
I cannot give legal advice. I'm not allowed to give legal advice. So whatever you do on your own is what you do. But yes, I mean, that is one where, for me personally, if I had a personal experience with someone who was less than reliable, my friends were asking, I would let my friends know. That's just me. That's not giving you any advice.
I'd like to put something on the bulletin board. Don't deal with this guy, but I'm scared to do it, of course.
And that I'm not familiar with how the association works.
Okay.
But it can happen to anyone, you see. These scammers are real. Any other questions? All right.
Okay, let's get on with the rest of our presentation. Thank you. Oh, sorry, David. These are kind of high.
Thank you, Maureen.
I don't know.
Isn't she wonderful? And her co-worker from the DA's office, we have with us Michael Staniker.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Stallnecker. I'm an investigator with the District Attorney's Office. I am assigned to major fraud as well as real estate fraud. So we have a real estate fraud task force. There's a whole whopping 8 of us that handle all real estate fraud complaints that come through the county. So can you guys hear me okay? Is that okay? Okay. What's that? Right here? Okay. All right. Wow. I'm not used to talking and walking like this, but I will do my best. As Maureen already told you, there is courtesy letters that go out. So if there is a issue, you can actually contact our task force, which is out of downtown Riverside, and you can talk to us and make any reference or concerns about it, and we will address it. If it turns out it appears to be possible fraud, then we will direct you either to our website, or we can mail you a form basically, and you would fill out a complaint and we would investigate. That's kind of how it works, just as far as title. As far as real estate, I'm not going to get into too much about real estate. That is a whole different realm of fraud, but every sector in our country is basically affected by fraud to some degree. Healthcare, consumer fraud, anything, investment fraud, banking, everything that you can imagine, there is a fraud element to it. A case that I can remember, there was a lady who called me up and she filed a report. She was out about $210,000 of her investment account. And basically what she learned was someone actually called in, pretended to be her, changed her password, changed her email, and basically transferred money out. Changed her address, which turned out to be an abandoned house. And basically everything about her profile was changed. There was anything she could do. She couldn't even get back into her account. So when I looked into the matter, I actually got the recording of that conversation with customer service. And what was very scary was this individual knew just enough about her to engage in a conversation where that individual, that customer service representative said, okay, yes, Mrs. Smith, whatever, I don't remember her name was. This is a couple years ago. What is your account number? Oh, you know what? I don't remember. I'm out and about right now, but I'm concerned. I just needed to make some changes. Okay. Who's on your account? Who's your beneficiary? Oh, I believe it's my daughters. They knew the daughters' names. Okay. Then they went through, where do you live? Gave the address. Social security number. Knew the social security number. Who did you designate as your beneficiary or some other aspect of it? I can't remember. Customer service said, okay, don't worry about it. Let's try a different question. And basically help this individual gain access to the account. Not on purpose, but the customer service rep was trying to be so nice and be helpful that they basically were part of the actual theft to some degree. So when I got this, there was a lady, because my victim was a female, so it was a female's voice. And basically, I let my victim listen and said, do you recognize this person? Because a lot of times, like Maureen said, sometimes it's relatives. Who's going to know about an individual's investment account? Well, she didn't recognize the voice, no family members. So the only other thing is called social networking. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Basically, people go out, if you have Facebook, you have social media, if you're out there in any way, people will research you and they'll find out just enough about you that then they'll start contacting and they can start reaching out to you, and then they will basically start their scam. They will groom you. Like what you hear about when you hear about all the pedophiles and stuff, they groom children. Grooming is a real thing of any kind of victimization. If I'm going out, if I'm coming after you and I'm going to get everything I can, I'm going to groom you. So the best way to combat this in reality is don't put all that information out there. When you are creating passwords, what's usually the things they ask? They always ask for security questions, right? You don't have to be truthful. Believe it or not, you don't have to tell them what high school you actually went to. You can make it up. You could use songs. You can use friends in whatever, college, whatever the case may be. You make it up to what you're going to remember. So when that person tries to go in, they ask that security question, what's your security question? What's your favorite song? And you wrote your dog's name, they're never going to be able to figure it out because they're thinking of a song. Because they're going to social engineer you and see that your likes. I like the Beatles. I like the Who. I like whoever. And they're going to kind of guess, and they're going to play that. So that's just something to keep in mind, that people who are scamming kind of may not already know who you are. So just keep that in mind. So when you're creating these accounts, come up with difficult passwords. Remember, what is the most popular password in the world? Does anybody know? It's password, right? And then they'll add the numbers. So that's password 1, password 2. That is the most popular password, is password. So you got to think outside the box. Don't make it so easy. It's easier for you, and I understand that. But you got to change it up. Also, if you have multiple accounts, make sure you're using different passwords for your different accounts. If you have a retirement account and you have a banking account, you have an investment account, don't use the same password, because if they get into one, they now have access to all 3. Okay? Think about using different emails. And I know this is a lot. I'm telling you, this is a lot of work. But when you get at a point, like maybe where you guys are at, I'm getting that point where I'm retiring, I'm going to be on a specific income, I want to make sure that I retain that money as much as possible. And I want to make it as difficult for someone else to get it as it was for me to earn it. And that's what you have to think about, okay? So my accounts, I will have different passwords, and I will utilize different emails, because your emails could be compromised. Anybody had their email compromised before? You can't? Anybody get in? Anybody have gotten our emails from friends and said, hey, or calls, hey, what was that email about? You're like, what are you talking about? I didn't send an email out, because your email just got compromised. Because what they're doing is they got into mine, they got all my contacts, and now they're going after my contacts. So they're getting as much information as they can to do whatever scam it is they're going to do. And everyone up here is going to tell you about scams. There are so many, it is almost impossible for law enforcement to keep up with what they are, learn about them, and then we have to combat them. So the only people who could truly prevent being scammed is ourselves. We know who we are. I know what bills I pay. I know if I'm overdrawn. I know what social media accounts I have, what friends. I know all that stuff. Okay? So it's up to me. Law enforcement, I don't know who you are. I don't know what accounts you have, okay? And I don't know if you're overdrawn or anything else. But you do. So if you get the email or you get that pop-up saying your Amazon account's about to be closed down or shut down because you're behind on this $1,400 shipment, well, you know if you bought something or not. And I'm telling you right now, Amazon's not going to close your account. They're just going to cancel that order. So every single scam that comes forward, think about what they do. It is urgency, and it's a scare tactic, right? If you don't do this, we're shutting you down. Hurry up and take advantage of it, or you're going to miss out. You better do this or this. And then if you get excited, if you don't take a step back, you're going to fall into that scam. Okay? My 82-year-old father, who was an aerospace engineer, who retired at 75 years old, okay, he literally drove to the bank and was about to cash out about $12,000 because Maureen's customer service guy, who was so nice to stay on the phone with him, he believed him. And his son, who's been in law enforcement for 26 years, who works fraud, he never once thought, I'm going to call Mike and just ask him real quick, hey, Mike, what do you think about this? No, because he's dad, right? He knows everything, okay? But it was his 83-year-old wife who jumped in the car, jumped out of the car at the bank, ran in, and I could only imagine what that looked like. But she ran into the bank and told the manager, my husband's being scammed. And the manager interjected because the bank personnel, when they see possibility of elder fraud fiduciary, they are responsible to actually report it. So they will call law enforcement and they will call APS. Okay, and I'll let the other people talk about that. I'm not going to get involved in that. But they're mandated by law, okay? So they will interject and they will try and help out. So all I can tell you as far as preventing, like Maureen said, use a use a credit card, not your debit card. Oh, sorry. Especially at stores. Someone here, who uses a debit card at Target or something? Somebody said that earlier. Yeah, don't do that. Okay, use a credit card, okay? Target a couple years ago, remember they got hacked? Okay, well, same thing. Okay, maybe not be a skimmer, and all that is a little device that some criminal will put into an ATM machine or put into one of the point of sales devices, and then they'll walk away and they'll come back sometime later. They'll grab it because it's a computer chip and it retains all that information. It gets the account number and the PIN number attached to it. And then what they do is they go online, and for about $500, they create their own identity theft package. They have the little stock, they have check stock, they actually have the plastic for credit cards. You go into any bank and you pick out what kind of credit card. I want the ones with the lions, or I want the one with the balloon, or I want my favorite team. Well, guess what? That's what they're creating. Bank of America, and then they start imprinting the stuff. So for $500, they could create their own little identity theft, and then they take your actual card number and they magnetically put it on the back of that strip, and they go shopping. Because guess what? Does anybody ask for your ID when you go to the restaurant, you pay with a credit card? No. Who here signs the back of their credit card? Does everybody put a signature? Okay. No one looks at it, but have you thought of this? Have you ever wrote check ID? Yes. That's what I do. And guess what? I recently just came back from Texas. I'm at a restaurant. I paid with that card, and the girl says, "Can I see your ID?" And I forgot I wrote check ID. And I'm like, "Oh, she thinks I'm stealing." And I'm like, "No." She goes, "Well, it says right here, check ID." And I'm like, "Thank you." And I tell them my ID. So something else to think about. That is something you want to think about. You got to think ahead, and that's what we have to do. How is somebody going to scam me, and how do I prevent it? And you got to be a couple steps ahead. And this is why it's so important to report. Okay, a lot of people are embarrassed, and I understand. Very embarrassed. I have people crying on the phone. I've been scammed. Don't. You need to let us know. Report it. So the first thing you do, if you are a victim of a scam and it has anything to do with your bank account, who do you want to go to first? The bank, right? You want to keep your money, go to the bank. And then once you get that cleared up, then go to the police department and report it, okay? We always want to call 911, and I understand that if you're a victim of a wire fraud where you send a wire out for money and you realize I just got scammed for whatever the case may be, you contact the bank. You only have a very limited time to recall that wire, okay? So go there, get your money, and then come to the police, and then they'll guide you where to go. The DA's office is after the fact. After the case gets to Marine, the Marine calls me up and says, "Mike, can you help me out?" And then I start helping her out on those cases, except for real estate, and then there's a few other entities, I believe, in our office that will handle ground up. But embezzlements, theft, stuff like that, that's going to be handled at your local police department. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Did you mention using different emails?
Yes, it's a suggestion, and it's a lot of work, and I understand that. But if you have multiple bank accounts, you might want to consider, in different banks, you might want to consider using a different email for each account. And everybody's online, and I understand that. There's passwords. There's passwords for everything. I don't remember all my passwords. It's very difficult to do. But when it comes down to like the financial aspects, you might want to consider doing that extra step. You could use different email providers as well. So if you want to use, like, say, a Bank of America, you have a Gmail. And then for Altura Credit Union, you can use, I don't know, Yahoo or something like that. And you create your own emails. And then that way, it's a little bit more controlled. So if one of them is compromised, then not all of your banking is compromised. So it's a lot of work, I know. Yes. Yes, sir.
Hi, Mike. I was just wondering, we use a debit credit card with U.S. Bank.
Yes.
It's connected together.
Yes.
We also have credit cards.
Yes.
Is your suggestion that you're letting us know, what do we do with that debit credit card? Because that's what I use all the time.
You use it as a credit. So when it gives you the choice, use debit or credit, you just want to put in a PIN number. Because once you put in the PIN number, the bank's going to look at it and says, how do they know your PIN? You gave it to somebody. You're not supposed to share it. That's your fault.
Okay.
Bad on you, you lose your money.
Thank
so
you.
credit card, they know. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? Oh, way in the back.
Yes, I would like to know, when you tap, you don't use your debit, you don't use your credit, you just take your card and you tap. What are you using? How is that?
No, for right now, from my understanding, and I haven't heard anything negative come out of that, that's a fairly safe way of purchasing. But just keep in mind, it is an electronic transaction. Okay? Someone, somewhere in the world is trying to beat that. So just something to keep in mind. So when you're, I don't know, I hate to tell people to come up with different accounts, but my account that I use on a daily basis, it is my allowance. It's the allowance my wife gives me, all right? I work, have my paycheck, can I have a little bit of money? But in reality, in the big scheme of things, if that account is compromised, I'm only missing a very small amount of money. If I'm using one account to pay my mortgage, to pay for my kids' college, to pay for all my bills, and then that one gets compromised, then I might feel a bigger hurt if all my money's gone. Okay. So it's using something like that is fine. I would maybe designate an account. It's just an idea, but designate one account for just your normal little small spending, and then utilize that tap or pulling money out or whatever the case may be.
So if you lose the card, someone finds it, all they have to do is tap, and you are paying for their purchase.
Yes, exactly, because I've never met a clerk so far since I tapped that's ever asked me for ID. As a matter of fact, they prefer it because I think they feel like I don't even have to ask that question, I have to look at this person, which is, to me, that's concerning too. So, yeah, and then I think one of the last, where we were last week, Marietta, one of the officers brought up a scam that's going on with seniors where they're approaching people in a parking lot of a shopping center, and it's a team thing. And they say, hey, you just dropped $20, they engage in a conversation, and then the other person is basically stealing from the purse. So all it's going to take for them is to go right back into the store and tap. You won't realize it till you get home, or even maybe not till a couple days. And by that time, the damage is done. So just something to keep in mind.
One other question.
Yes.
I have a friend, a younger friend, and they're quite young. They're teenagers, and they have a pay-per-go card that you put money on, and it's only good as long as you have money on the card. Well, she put money on the card to pay a bill, and then when she paid the bill, they notified her there wasn't any money in the account. And then they did let her know where the money was taken out, and it was maybe 4 or 5 blocks from from the bank that she used.
Okay.
So where would this type of a scam come in? How did the person get access?
Well, at some point, either A, she utilized it and her information was captured by someone who's a criminal, or B, a lot of these credit cards, even the preloaded ones, that information gets sold into the dark web, and then people buy it, and then it gets accessed. Most likely that this person was probably compromised at some other transaction, and then in turn they just turned around and used it. So unfortunately, you have employees at certain restaurants. I'm sure you've seen online where someone at a fast food place. I think there was a girl that ducked down and she was scamming or whatever. She was taking money, and the person's yelling, "I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing." But it happens. So just something to keep in mind. Yes, it's most likely from a different point of sale that she was compromised or he was compromised. Yes.
When you talk about different passwords, our banker had told us when you start your process of your beneficiary, your estates, things like that and everything, he stated to make a notebook. And then in the back of your notebook, have a place where you have your password to a bank, to your credit card, to your emails, things like that and everything. So we've been accumulating these things for our notebook, and that notebook is only for the executor of the estate. And that's really helped us a lot getting records in order.
Yes.
This is just a suggestion.
Oh, yeah, no.
Especially about passwords. If you have like 6, 7, 8 passwords,
Right.
I mean, the older I get,
Yes.
I won't forget. I'll get confused.
You have to keep track of them, and there's different ways of doing that. There's stuff on your phone that you can do, and writing them down. It's just, just picking different ones. Don't just pick one and say that's for everything in my life, okay? And then also consider 2-factor authentication if you have it. If you're not familiar with it, you sign it up where your phone gets notified by your phone. So if you do a transaction, whether it's a credit card or you are withdrawing money or you're doing a bank transaction, all of a sudden you'll get something on your cell phone saying verification code, and you have to say accept it yes or no. Just something to keep in mind. That's an extra level of security. It's nice to have. Your credit cards, you could set up a max amount, and then it will notify you. So anything over $200, notify me of that purchase. I do that with my credit cards, and it's going off all the time. I look at my wife, and she's on the computer, and she's shopping on Amazon. So it's like, will you stop? So anyways, okay. Any other questions? Should we move on?
Anita, this is going to be the last question because we need to get on to other presenters. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask, there's quite a few stores now that you go into and other places where they don't take cash. It's only the card. And you, speaking of the tap, you either tap or swipe. I do know in whether stores that I shop that I'm sure that they are reputable, but what about places that don't take cash anymore?
That's going to be your own personal decision. You know, at the end of the day, it's what do you feel comfortable? If you don't trust that store or it just doesn't feel right and they're not going to accept your cash, it's up to you to move on. So it's, I don't know what to tell you because, yeah, we're moving into a new wave here of electronic payment, and I don't know, cash is bad or whatever. I was hearing there was a coin shortage during COVID. I didn't know that was a thing, but I guess it was. And same thing with cash. I don't know why they don't want to deal with cash, but maybe they're afraid of being robbed, or I don't know. So that's something that that your own personal belief or what you decide to do is right or wrong. But it's, you know, everybody is doing the cashless. Yeah, thank you. Purchases. So it's up to you as an individual.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we have a presenter from the Department of Public Social Services, a very large agency in the county, and a lot of different departments under it. And we're going to have Jamie Jones and Cynthia Mendez, who are going to be presenting.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Ooh, it's been a lot of information. Is anybody scared to even just go shopping right now? Or to answer an email? It's so hard for me too. You'll have to keep reminding me. I promise. Okay, so we've been focusing on the types of scams. And honestly, these are just a few of them. Our department, Cynthia Mendez, she can come out and we can do a full-on hour and a half presentation. We'll dig into each scam, and we'll start talking about how to protect yourself and what to do if you have been scammed. But today we're just going to do a little oversight, kind of about the department and kind of if it does happen, where we go from there. Okay. So, Department of Social Services, we have in the Adult Protective Services, Adult Services Division, that's a lot, Adult Protective Services, IHSS, Public Authority, and the CARE team, which is who we are with. So, we're going to go more extensively into Adult Protective Services. In-home supportive services, everyone familiar with that program? Maureen talked about it a little bit with the care providers. Yes, it's a Medi-Cal eligible program, so you have to be on Medi-Cal to qualify for that. But as Maureen was saying, you are the client, so therefore you choose your care provider. So that's how family members get involved with that if they've been recently released from jail or prison. Public Authority, if you don't have a family member or a care provider, Public Authority keeps a list of care providers that they will help match you with. So basically, In-Home Supportive Services works with our clients, which is about 40,000 clients in Riverside County alone. 40,000 people this program touches. Public Authority works with the care providers. Adult Protective Services, we touch about 30,000 people. So between just those two programs, 70,000 community partners or members of Riverside County are touched by our program. Okay. So we'll get to the CARE program a little bit later. So who do we help? So as Maureen was saying, under the law, an elder is considered to be 65 years or older. That used to be Adult Protective Services, but in January of 21, we changed that to 60 years or older. So that's 5 years of people that we're able to help now where we couldn't before that qualify for our services. And then a dependent adult is anyone between 18 and 59. Okay, so we go out in Adult Protective Services and we investigate many things, many allegations, but what we're here to talk about today is financial abuse. So, financial abuse, sudden unjustified selling of property, missing stolen property, the caregiver, financial abuse, a change in handling personal finances, unpaid bills, and disparity. So you'll be able to call Adult Protective Services, our hotline, and you can talk about your neighbors, yourself, your family member, and we're going to ask a lot of questions. And the questions that we're asking are trying to decide how quickly do we need to send a social worker out to this person's home to help them. So they're crisis kinds of questions. We may go out in 1 to 2 hours because it's high risk. We need to get out there right now. Sometimes it's 24 hours, sometimes it's 2 to 5 days, sometimes it's 10 days. It just depends on what the situation is. So we'll go out, we'll ask a lot of questions, we'll do our assessment, and we are a service agency, so we're going to talk about what's in the community that can help this person. We are not scary monsters. We don't go remove people from their house. We don't go in and threaten. We're just social workers. We use our mouths. That's what we do. And our job is to know all of the services in the area and in the community so that we can help you. Okay, so CARE, basically there's 3 components to what we do. First component, any financial abuse case that is an unknown perpetrator that goes into Adult Protective Services hotline gets cross-reported over to us. Cynthia is one of those people who will help this particular community approximately 40 cases per month, where she's making phone calls, she's reaching out, she's saying, hey, how can we help you? How can we educate so that this never happens again? So that's one component. So I have 6 staff, 40 cases per staff per month. It's a lot. Riverside County only. Second thing that we do, we have MDTs, multidisciplinary team meetings across the county. So we have Blythe, Palm Desert, Riverside, and Paris, where we get together with up to 50 community partners. Maureen is on that MDT, so we get to see her a lot, and she is joking in there. She is out here, so super fun. And we have an educational component to those MDTs, and also any of the community partners can bring a client that they're concerned about or that they don't know what else to do, how to help this person. So we have 50 brains that will get together and we can all talk about this case and how we can help this client from our different perspectives. And that happens 1 time per month. Okay, and the last part is exactly this. Just coming out. We're going to talk about financial abuse and scams. We're going to talk about what to do to prevent it, what to do after, try and recoup that money if we can, but we all know how hard that is, but just presentations and education. Okay, I almost need my glasses to see this, so I'm going to walk a little closer. We have videos too. So in 2020, $3.3 billion of your money, my money, scam and fraud, $3.3 billion. In 2021, 1 year later, 70% increase, $6.1 billion in just 1 year. 1 year later, 2022, another 30% increase, $8.8 billion. We see the trend. Yep. Crazy. Okay, and I have a quick little video here.
There we go. My name is Don Holmes. I live in Sun City West, Arizona. In this community, we're all seniors. After you move in here, even if you don't know anybody, you get to know other people you enjoy doing things with. I use the computer predominantly for email and to get the news. One day a thing pops up and kind of blocks the screen and says you've got all kinds of viruses in your computer. The design of the pop-up had a Microsoft logo on the top, and they had a number, and I couldn't get rid of this thing on the screen. Turn the computer off, turn it back on, still there. So I called the number. They identified themselves as Microsoft. I had no feeling that there was anything wrong.
Tech support scams are real, and they're causing enormous consumer injury, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's just based on the FTC's own law enforcement work. Just like Mr. Holmes, a lot of people are getting pop-ups on their screens, and often they claim to be associated with a company such as Microsoft or Apple, giving them lots of credibility.
They told me they would clear what they considered to be malware in there. In order to clear it up, they needed to get into my computer and have my control of the computer turned over to them. So I gave them my password. They went in, the thing came off of the screen. When I went back to my computer the next day, I couldn't access my files.
You never let a stranger into your house. Don't let them into your computer. If you get a pop-up, don't click on a link. If you get a phone call from someone who says your computer's security is at risk, don't listen to them. Stop. Take the time to talk to a friend, talk to a family member.
When this happened to me, I was a little bit embarrassed. I mean, I consider myself fairly alert, but I was targeted and I was scammed. I didn't really want to talk about this, but I realized that if I didn't talk about it, that if I didn't file the complaint with the Attorney General, that if I didn't file a complaint with the FTC, that I would have shrunk into myself. And by talking about it, by talking to all of my friends, I began to realize that they also started talking, and they started indicating that they had experienced similar things. That kind of community, that kind of exposure, it's not an embarrassment, it's just something that happens when you're a senior. You have to talk about the other seniors. What I would suggest is contact the FTC. They have a website. You can fill out a complaint online. We can be empowered with your family, your friends, and other people within your community to try to put a stop, or at least protect ourselves from these kinds of scams.
Excellent. We have another video, and just so we everything's working, we're going to just play that right now too. On the romance scams Maureen talked about earlier.
Looking for love in all the right places. Popular dating sites, mobile apps, and social networking sites. Ron seems like a perfect match for you. He's thoughtful. He says he can't live without you. He says he's from the U.S., but works out of the country. He says he wants to visit, but says he can't afford it. He asks you to send him money. Last month it was medical bills for his sick aunt. This month he needs money to fix his car. Next month, who knows? Ron wants your money. Don't send it. The person pretending to be Ron is a scammer. He'll tell you anything to get you to wire cash right away. He'll never run out of excuses. If an online love interest asks you for money, walk away, no matter how compelling the story. Report scams at ftc.gov/imposters.
Okay, some of this other stuff's already been talked about, so I'm going to just briefly go over it. They talked about the scammers wanting to create some type of urgency. It has to happen right now, or some type of fear. So if you're feeling like that is happening, that's when you stop. That's when you stop and think about what's going on. Call a family member, call a friend, and say, hey, this is happening, is this real? Just stop. There's always a prize, pressure that we talked about, and then the gift card scam that they had talked about too. Again, not sharing your PIN, computer screen, not pushing those hyperlinks in your email or text messages. I've recently, what have I had problems with? In just the last 3 months, Walmart, Kohl's, and PlayStation. And every one of them, they've hijacked my accounts. They've charged things to their address, but that's a whole nother game too. They send it to like a neighbor's address and then they wait for the delivery person, then they'll just go grab them so that you don't have their actual address. Again, we could talk about this for hours, sadly. So what I've started doing is if I do want to order from any of those places, I put in the credit card information, make the order, pull it back out. I never keep my credit card information saved like they want to do. So that's been working for me since then, but it's just, it's constant being diligent. Okay. And again, like the video stated, like we're all stating, it can be anybody, stranger, family member. It's just important to stop and to report. That was also brought up. Here's our Adult Protective Services telephone number. Please feel free to give us a call. Cynthia has a table in the back that has all of our information back there. There's a blue book from the FTC. It's fantastic. Talks about scams, kind of what's happening now. Talks about what to do if you are scammed. There's some great checklists there. Please help yourself to any information in that back table. Okay, any questions regarding Adult Protective Services? Please. I can, thank you.
I apologize, I may be out of track because I went home to find the letter that I want to ask you about, whether you know about it and if it's a scam or not. And it was about 6 months ago that I received that letter, and unfortunately I cannot remember the sender, exactly the name, but it was a company like Expedia or one of those that hold everybody's data. And the letter said that they had been invaded, and they were asking me, they were going to protect me for 6 months without pay, and they're asking if it was okay. And I didn't do anything about that, and I was wondering if other people, because some of my friends from other area received that same letter, so it might be something true or not, I don't know. It was kind of bothering me.
So I get
Thank you.
Thank you. I get those letters. I'm sure you guys have gotten the letters. I forget the last one. Even Expedia and TransUnion have been invaded, like you had said. And the company they'll warn you so that you know to change your passwords and to keep a really diligent eye on that account, making sure that there's no, it definitely could be legitimate. So you never want to go through like the letter or through the email or through a text message, but you could contact the company. You get the company information, you contact them, personally, not using that information provided in the letter. And then, hopefully a customer service representative will be kind and can let you know what had happened. Good question. Okay. When you report to Adult Protective Services, it is anonymous. You do not have to leave your name or your information, Nanny Mouse, as we sometimes call them. And if you do provide your information, please know it would be against the law for any of us social workers to give that client your information. Sometimes people are crafty and they try to guess, and sometimes they can guess because of information that was provided, but we would never confirm that. Okay? Please know that. Any other adult service questions? Sure.
Recently, probably about a year now, we always get this on the TV screen where it says spam risk because our phone is connected to that TV. So whenever our phone rings, it also pops up on the TV who is calling. So this spam risk calls us about 10 times a day, very early in the morning and in the evening. Is that some kind of attack?
Well, I think
Problem?
that is your phone service saying, hey, this phone number, this person calling you is potentially a scam. So be very aware. That's what that is. So that's a good thing other than them calling super early in the morning. Yep. I'm not sure, but maybe you can put maybe those scam risks on mute so that they're not ringing through your phone also. It would just be a vibrate. That might be helpful too, so it's not waking you up in the morning. But yep, I see those spam risks and I'm like, delete, send them to the voicemail. It's never left. Okay, any other questions? Thank you so much, everybody, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, now to talk specifically about burial fraud, we have Linda Blanche.
Okay, no videos, no passwords, nothing. Funeral fraud is a rampant thing that's growing very fast. Has anybody here experienced recently a loved one that they've lost? Let me tell you what's happening. They will call the survivor, okay? It's usually, it seems right now it's husband and wife. They've lost one or the other, okay, and they're calling. And they're asking specific questions. They introduce themselves. Some of them are calling and introducing themselves as Miller Jones Mortuary. We do not call people and ask them for any pertinent information because our arrangers in the office already are taking care of that family. The other one is American Funeral Service. They will call and represent them. And this is what they're telling them. We can get you your death certificates within a week, and it's only going to cost you $10 per certificate. The County of Riverside is $24 per death certificate. There is no other special deal. These other outfit is not going to print anything up for you and make it look like a death certificate. It's not going to happen. And the best thing that I could say is that when they call, and this is what they're going to ask. Let's just say we have Elmer Jones. He's passed away, and Mrs. Jones, she's grieving. She's very upset. So she gets this call, and she's thinking, oh, yes, I need these death certificates because I have to get it to the bank, to the insurance, and anybody else that would require a copy of a death certificate. Well, Mrs. Jones, I have Elmer T. Jones. Oh no, it's not T, it's S. First thing, okay, so there they have that. And I just wanted to verify his birth date. His birth date was June 21st, 1940. Oh no, his birth, it wasn't 21st, it's June 20th. Okay, two things they now have. The only other thing that I need to verify and confirm with you is his Social Security number. So she spells out his Social Security number. Great, now that I've confirmed this with you, I can order your death certificates. And how many would you like, Mrs. Jones? Oh, I need maybe 10, okay? The only thing you'll have to get, if you'll give me your credit card number, I can order these. She gives them the credit card number. Now, not only do they have access to this credit card, but they have access to everything that the Jones family, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, had. Bank accounts, insurance, CDs, everything. She gets wiped out. And it's all innocent on her part. So, and I have experienced this. I was working a service about 2 months ago, and I'm talking to the daughter. And we're just having a conversation. I said, yeah, I said, you know, there's a thing going around. It's funeral fraud. And I started to tell her a little bit about it. And she goes, I got a phone call before I came here this morning. Started asking me some information. And she said, I thought, well, that's not right because the funeral home already has all that. She says that she just hung up. Another one, just yesterday, one of my colleagues said she was talking to the son of a loved one, and his phone started to ring. So he answers his phone, American Funeral Service, and I can get you your death certificates. He's right there in the mortuary at the chapel, and again, another scam, fraud, however you want to look at it. It's rampant out there. Pass the information on to your friends because when you lose a loved one, you have enough to think about, not somebody trying to rip you off. And, you know, that's the best thing that I can tell you. Are there any questions? I will tell you this much. Our company, when we get these calls, we get all the information we can, we turn it over to our corporate office who works with the FBI. And so they are doing researching, trying to find out where this is coming from. We don't know right now where this information, how it's getting out, because some of them are calling these families before the family even comes in and meets with our arranger. So it's either coming from the coroner's office, maybe a pickup site, maybe a hospital, maybe a hospice, something like that. We don't know. So be very, very careful who you're giving your information out to.
Questions? My husband passed away 3 years ago, no, 4 now. But recently I've received several phone calls from, I don't know who it is now, I can't remember because I hang up, but they want to, there's a new service, they say, where I don't know who's providing this service to help for low-cost funeral arrangements. And I said, well, I already have everything all taken care of, and I hang up. But I've had at least 3 phone calls. You know, it's, I felt it was a scam. They didn't say that it's a mortuary, but that there's money available, some federal funding or whatever, to help people with funeral expenses. Has anybody heard about anything like that? Is that a scam?
Sounds a little questionable to me.
Mm-hmm. That's why I hung up.
Yeah, good.
I just tell them I have it. It's all taken care of.
The only ones that get the benefits of government money is our veterans when we lay them to rest. But yes, be careful. It's like, there's something like that, you know, because if we were to call somebody, when we call a family or we call an individual, we identify ourselves, who we are. Our office, if let's just say you're the scammer and you call our office, whoever answers the phone is not permitted to give out any information about the family. Nobody in our office, I couldn't even give out information about a family. The only person that gives out that information is the arranger that took care of that family while they were in our care. So be careful, just beware.
3 weeks ago, my sister's husband died, and when I talked to her just a few days ago, she told me that someone called from the funeral home she said that it is part of their aftercare, and there's an attorney involved, and she said, but we provide an attorney, and she was asked if the husband is getting money from Social Security, and if he has pension. You know, he was in the military before.
Right.
So I told my sister, just tell them that you know, I thought that, okay, the funeral was completed, and he was already buried, and she had completely paid for the insurance for several years. And so I just told her, just tell them, okay, my siblings are taking care of all of these things. So that's all you can say.
Right, that's the best thing to say. Only time we call, after a service, whoever the arranger is that worked with the family, they will call and ask to see how the family's doing and if everything is okay, and if there's anything else they can do to help them out. Otherwise, we don't, and we never have an attorney represent us.
Oh.
Okay, there would not be anybody. If it's an attorney, it's the family's own individual attorney. It's not ours. Okay?
I have a question. Do the scammers go through the obituaries?
They could. They could, because that's the other thing is, don't put too much information out there. Don't put the day that the loved one is going to be buried. Don't put an address in there, because now you're opening yourself up to not just the funeral scammer, but anybody else out there that is, pegging to make a few dishonest bucks. These scammers, there was a guy over in, I don't know if it was Nigeria or somewhere in the Middle East, made $5 million in 1 year on funeral scams. Now how many death certificates did he have to sell to make $5 million? He was caught and arrested, he was, put in prison, but still, that's a lot of money. Some people are out.
Any other questions?
How long does it take to get a death certificate?
Depends on how busy the county is. Could be maybe by 3 weeks. Jessica, about 3 weeks, 4 weeks to get a death certificate? Okay, 4 to 6 weeks. I know that during COVID it was a long time. Sometimes it's quicker.
How many do you need, and who do you need them for?
Well, I can't tell you how many you would need. You'd need probably one. You need one for the bank and maybe whoever the pension. A lot of times they'll just take a copy now of a death certificate. So instead of, a few years ago you'd have to present an original to everyone that you were the insurance companies, the beneficiary for the pension and all that. Not anymore. A lot of them will just take a copy. So I can't tell you how many. I don't know that. You could maybe get by with one, possibly. Probably more than one. Yes, sir.
I've got an answer. My dad recently passed away in August. He was at Brookdale over in Loma Linda, and had all of his arrangements taken care of in Big Bear like 30 years ago, where he's going to be with mom and all that. So with that, my brother's the executor of his estate, and he had ordered up initially 20 because here, and of course we got contacted by his life insurance company, so I needed one as a beneficiary, and probably all I'm going to need, but my dad has all these investments, so he's going to need one for each of those. And fortunately, we didn't go through Dad's backyard in Big Bear if he had cans or whatever. But he's got all these investments, so I would probably recommend going through this recently, anywhere from 10 to 20, depends on what that person's portfolio is.
Yeah, that seems like quite a few, but yeah, you never know. Hopefully his investments aren't in those cans in the backyard. Anybody else? Well, thank you very much. I'll say this much to you. If you haven't already arranged for your final disposition, do yourself and your family a favor, because you'll save a lot of headaches.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Again, I want to thank Michelle and all the administration here at Sun Lakes. It's wonderful to be here. I'm very happy with the presentation. I hope that you got a lot of good information, and I hope you share it with the other residents, and I hope none of you get scammed.
Thank you, David. And I'm sorry Supervisor Gutierrez was out of the state. Out of state? Out of state, okay. Well, we'll have him back here another time. I want to thank all our panel. Thank you so much for coming. It was very informative. Before we leave, I just want to let you know a couple of other things. Banning Active Transportation Plan Workshop, we had them here not too long ago. They're coming back for a follow-up on October 17th, 1 o'clock. It's not our regular community awareness program because we always have it on the first Tuesday, but this is as soon as I could get him in. And so he's going to be here. That was Nate Smith. He's going to be here giving you all the information about that Active Transportation Plan Workshop. I don't have any flyers that I can give you, but Hernan has put this on Channel 97, also Good Day Sun Lakes, so you'll be able to see it on there. And then our next presentation will be on Tuesday, November 7th, from 1 to 3 here in the main ballroom. I know this is a touchy subject. It's banning animal shelter. And Amber Schleider is going to be back here, and she's going to do another presentation. So I'm hoping that everybody that hears this is going to understand that we want to be kind to her. I know there's a lot of things going on with her right now, and a lot of things going on with the city and some with our city council people. So if you attend this, please be kind and cautious and gentle to her, because she is opening up and giving us a presentation on the animal shelter. So I just want to thank everybody for attending today, and have a great afternoon.